Yo, it's Boomer Cardon on the fan. Good job, Ace Gary. Oh, wait, no, this is the Edition of Swishing podcast, recording somewhat live in the basement. March 25th, about almost 6:30. Back after the 2-week hiatus of no podcast. I know all of our listeners were very upset about that, but we have a good reason why. And besides the fact that I was traveling, we come to you with new presents, and we were very kindly given a large sum of money by my girlfriend's parents, who wanted us to record on proper equipment so you could hear us produce some very great sounding content. So we were given this audio mixer I ordered, and it came to my doorstep last night, and now we're all hooked up to my laptop, which thank God is not broken yet. And this is what we're going to be using from now on, instead of yelling at that stupid internal mic on the laptop. And it'll sound better. I have to obviously read through the manual to perfect it. But, whatever. I wish I could have a new voice, a new radio voice, but it does not have that special effect yet. But we are very excited to have this. We have other announcements as well. I'll let Joe say hello first.
Hello. First of all, thank you, Jada's parents. Appreciate this. We tweeted out a picture of the mixer.
Yeah,
you can
look
which
it
is
out.
awesome.
It's a bunch of knobs and blinking lights.
No, but I mean, it mixes official.
Of course.
Officially official.
We've been official,
yeah.
But no, it makes things much easier. Like, you guys have no idea how annoying it was to record just into a laptop. Having this thing is awesome. And also shout out to my great former roommate Brian from college, who is our tech guy from 3,000 miles away in Los Angeles, who picked this out for me and is helping us set all this up and telling us which cords to get. In addition to this, we will be able to now receive phone calls and play them on the air. I have to get a couple extra things, hook up my iPhone, send out the number, and you guys call and ask questions. So we're going to be as much radio style as possible for this podcast. Next up in our few announcements, also very cool, might be just as cool as getting this new podcast mixer.
I'd probably say it's cooler.
Joe thinks it's cool. Joe does not appreciate me going and ordering this $300 audio mixer. But anyway, we did promise you guys that we would have a roundtable type discussion. We'll have a bunch of our writers come in and do stuff with us. And now we will have that opportunity, thanks to me and my connections and me being awesome. I am pretty good friends with my boss at work. And we will have access to the SiriusXM studios. So Saturday or Sunday, when it's kind of empty in there after I'm done working, any of the guys can come up, sign them in. We'll do our podcast there, record it on CDs. Talk about that's professional sounding, and we'll have access to music and stuff as well. So I'll have our MP3 on our CD done, come back home, pop it in, and then we'll be posted to our YouTube page and the blog and everything else. So that's going to be pretty awesome. We'll get Joe Carlin, Gene DeMeo, Andrew Crawford, all in there.
Your friend Nick
Pick from BU, if he comes back in time, hopefully from school. I know he's busy doing stuff up there. And now we have a new member, Ryan Miller, who also a Staten Island Tech alum, writes to Staten Island Advance, going to help Carlin out with the soccer stuff and also other just various sports topics. He already wrote awesome piece on the Brooklyn Nets about how they're stuck in this purgatory. They're not too good, but they're not also too bad. No picks. It's if you're a Nets fan, read it if you want to jump off a bridge. If you're a Knicks fan and you want to feel better about yourself, go read it as well. So it's good stuff there. Go check it out at the Twitter and the website at DNS_podcast and the website Edition and Swishing Podcast. .wordpress.com.
Yeah, but we're going to get rid of the WordPress soon.
So is that all for the announcements?
That's all for the announcements. We're all settled.
Oh, well, all right. Well, I guess we talk sports now. And if you're a New York sports fan and a fan of hockey and the New York Rangers, I think you could be very, very happy about this because, like we said a couple weeks ago, I said it was cover bust. I wrote about it. You could check that out as well. And I'm sticking to my guns because after, last night, whatever, it was a slip-up. But this team right now, playing without Kevin Klein, playing without Marty St. Louis, playing without Henrik Lundqvist, has been absolutely amazing. And there's no way that this season could be a success without a cup. And as bad as that sounds, we went to the cup last year. The Rangers have been playoff bound the past couple of years. There's nothing left to prove. And the team right now, the roster way it's built, and I'm sure Joe will get to it because Joe points it out any chance he gets to, the roster is built in a great way and is a great feature they have, a.k.a. their age, as to why this team was here to stay. But you have to also realize, with our goalie's age and our top goal scorer's age and our other secondary goal scorer's age, the time is right for right now. And before I break down the whole Lundqvist Cam Talbot thing I want to get into, I know Joe wants to go on his rant about the age thing, but it's really exciting to see after what happened last year, losing in 5 and that whole playoff run. We beat the Flyers in the first round, if I remember correctly. Yeah, right, Flyers, and then going to the distance, going 7 with the Penguins, and then beating the Canadians, who are very good again this year. It's going to be a really, really fun, thrilling ride as always. And as a sports fan, I mean, maybe besides the Giants winning, I can't remember a time as fun as this going through it, because there's a team that I always wanted to see win, grew up winning, loving, and seeing them win. A big feature of Rangers fans' lives is always looking at an MSG and seeing all the '94 Cup win, and my dad was at that game, and that's something that Rangers fans always hold on to. So to see them do it again, as I look towards my picture of my basement of the Rangers winning the Cup in '94, you just think like, how awesome it would be to experience that, in person, go down to Broadway, watch the parade, because us hockey fans, we're in this cult together. It's a very tightly knit but very strong and passionate community. We don't want the casual fans. We want the diehard, the guys who bleed blue. And right now, this team is doing something special. I mean, beating the Ducks the way they did, 7-2. It was just that team where everyone talks about, be afraid of them out in the West. They're a big, bad, tough team. The Rangers made mincemeat of them. I mean, they didn't ball on the ice together. I mean, it was tilted. It was our speed. Was obvious. They're supposed to be this tough team, but we beat them in the corners. Talbot is just playing out of his mind. We got scoring from anyone, every level, every line, offense and defense. I mean, Yandel had an awesome game, his best game in his Rangers uniform. The move paid off. I knew it would. I'm very happy. Joe, I know you're happy too.
I'm thrilled. I'm very, very excited. My first point that I wanted to get with is not to disagree with you. Obviously, you wrote a nice little brief Cup or Bust article that went up on the website. And
it was a Messier-like prediction.
Yes, it was a Messier-like prediction. And obviously, you know how I feel. I think they're head and shoulders the best team in hockey. I think they're the most complete team in hockey. Obviously, right now, they're tied with 99 points with the Montreal Canadiens and the Anaheim Ducks atop the NHL standings. With that said, they also have 2 games in hand. So
also very key, yeah.
Yes, very, very key. So obviously, I think they're the best. But what you said before about the Cup or Bust mentality, and I mean, I completely agree. You have to win the Stanley Cup. This team is built for it. They've been built for it the last couple of years.
I'm not going to say they're not going to get back to it. What I'm saying is, if the Rangers lose in the second round of the playoffs this year, what does that prove? What does that do for them?
It would be a huge disappointment.
That's exactly my point.
Huge disappointment. I know, I agree with that 100%. But the mentality that a lot of casual hockey fans have now is with the specifically after the trade of Keith Yandel, which you alluded to has definitely paid off. They traded Anthony Duclair, really, really good prospect who flourished at World Juniors this year, playing on a line with current Coyotes prospect Max Domi and the alleged top pick in this June's NHL draft and Connor McDavid. Together, that they were awesome. So everybody finally got to see Duclair, and you know how it goes, especially with hockey fans in particular when it comes to prospects. We tend to overvalue prospects, and if we give up a really good one to get a really good player now, that's kind of seen as we're going for it now. And I think the mentality is a lot of people have around the league is that the Rangers are going for it now. And while I do agree for it, that obviously their window it's open, they're going for it now, I don't think necessarily that their window is closing. So I don't agree with the whole Cup or Bust mentality, because I don't think their window is for a year or two. I think their window is going to last 5 to 10 years. And obviously, you alluded to this before again. Also, I was going to get into the whole age argument, because when you break down
a podcast or two ago, we did talk about the age lot. So we don't have to go totally in depth. Everyone gets the Rangers are young. Their best player, the best goal scorer, Rick Nash is in his 30s, and the other side of 30.
Well, when you look at everybody else,
30s.
McDonough's 24.
Else, right,
yeah,
very young.
McDonough's 24. Our captain's 24 years old. Stepan is 24. Kreider is 23. Hagelin is 26. Zuccarello is 28. He just re-signed here. Brassard is 27. He signed for 5 years last offseason.
Yeah.
Everybody
the
who
defense
is going...
besides Girardi is young. Offense besides St. Louis is young. I mean, Lundqvist goalies in this NHL last until their 40s. Lundqvist is fine.
Lundqvist he's the oldest guy on the team, and he's 33 years old, which is technically not that old anymore when it comes to goalies.
No,
because
absolutely not.
Goalies have slowly, like we've seen this with even Marty Brodeur. If you're an all-time great goalie and you have the mentality and the fitness level of a nut, Yes, absolutely. You can play into your 40.
And yeah, you bring up a great point. I mean, you bring up Lundqvist now, and I wanted to get to that. Big weekend for the Rangers. Lundqvist might come back, rumored to come back. He's the number 2 goalie for the game versus the Ottawa Senators. I believe it's Thursday, which is tomorrow. Saturday, they're in Boston playing the Bruins, who I do not want to see make the playoffs. The Rangers do not match up well with them at all. Sunday, back home versus the Caps. Really exciting game. Hopefully, I think it's a nationally broadcast game, so that's going to be really exciting to watch. I'm guessing Lundqvist will play in one of those 2 games. I'm not sure they want to wait till he's home, play him in front of the home crowd versus the Caps, or play him in Boston. Teams on the fringe of the playoffs right now. But again, big physical team, great goal in Tuukka Rask. I don't like playing Boston. I said before about Rangers fans, bleeding blue being this cult. On the flip side, they're the dumbest people on the planet because, you said it about the trade. When they made the trade, they're giving up Duclair, Ranger fans all of a sudden forget the team went to the Cup last year, and they're relying on this prospect to carry their team. And, no offense to Anthony Duclair, but he wasn't the number 1 pick in the draft. He was not the saving grace of the franchise. If you made it, he's a guy who does not have a good two-way game, has to play on a top line, and he would have been a non-central, non-focal point of this offense anyway. And Rangers fans, put their arms up. Oh, you got him training for Yandel. Look at his, the Corsi numbers, and look at his, he's not good defensively, and this and that. What is the Rangers' number 1 issue, probably besides the face-off man, was a power play quarterback, a lack of, because guess who, we signed Dan Boyle. Dan Boyle didn't do it, or do it up to what we thought he would do it and we had to make a move. And they flip out about this stupid, this move, it ruined the whole team, forgetting that, like you just said, everyone is 25 and younger, and Lundqvist is still in his prime, and Nesh is hitting his prime, and they thought the season was over, and I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? A couple of days later of the trade, Anthony Duclair was scratched. He didn't even play. A non-injury scratch, and then for the minor league team. So that shows you, again, Glenn Sather, the guy, say what you want about the signings he's made. He's been money with trades. And again, Rangers fans show how stupid they are. If you listen to WFAN or read stuff, Lundqvist is coming back. He's a guy making $9 million a year for you. A guy took you to the Stanley Cup Finals last year. Won a Game 7 in Pittsburgh. Was a 2-1. Won a Game 6. 1-0 versus Montreal. He's like 5-1 in Game 7s. His save percentage is almost 1,000. He's like a 1 goals against in Game 7s, and people are saying, "Oh, we should start Talbot and trade Lundqvist." Are you what? Look. Talbot, first of all, is the one who's been on the trading block. I advocated for trading Talbot either this offseason or next trading deadline, depending on what we do with the Cup. Lundqvist is 33. We have other goaltenders who are waiting in the wings to take a spot, take a number 2 spot.
We didn't trade. We drafted Brandon Halverson in the 2nd round of the fall last year in the draft, and he's been awesome.
Right, and even Skapski is a fine backup.
Right.
Goalies in the NHL do not play as much as Cam Talbot did. The whole. Remember when Tim Thomas did it with Tuukka Rask when they split 40 and 40, whatever it was. NHL goalies for the most part, maybe take around 20 games not playing. Is that right?
Yeah.
And if you're a true number 1, you're playing about 60.
Right. True number 1s usually play somewhere between 58 and 65. 60, somewhere.
Right. So now, but according to Rangers fans, because Cam Talbot's been in the stretch, a guy who's never played in a playoff game, never won a playoff game, they want to move Henrik Lundqvist, who has been his number will be lifted in the rafters.
His numbers should be. If he retired today, his number would go in the rafters.
He's going to come down as one of the greatest statistical goalies of all time, and he's going to be. I think I will put money on it. I'll bet this house we're in that the Rangers will win a Stanley Cup with Henrik Lundqvist because their team was just too good. I'll guarantee they're going to win it this year. I thought they were going to win it last year. But they want to trade him? Imagine you win the Cup. Now, I understand this. Now, I understand if Lundqvist comes back, right? Lundqvist comes back and does not play up to the level of what Cam Talbot was doing if he was mediocre, right? And you're going to say, okay, what do you do down the playoffs? You do not flip goalies in the playoffs. You do not switch goalies game 1, game 2. You do not do that. A goalie in the playoffs has to get hot. He has to get in the zone. If you want to switch them back and forth during the last stretch of the regular season, go ahead. You want to play Lundqvist twice in the beginning of the week and let Talbot do the last game, then Lundqvist can start fresh, have a week break or so. Go for it. But Lundqvist, you have to remember, is not recovering from a muscle tear or an injury. He got hit in the neck with a puck in a freak injury. He was just sitting out just to make sure he wouldn't have a stroke and die. And his injury is very serious. I'm not saying taking away from him, but I'm saying is it's not like he's just not in game shape. He's not in the mental game shape. But it's not like he is recovering from a torn quad. He's not recovering from a rotator cuff tear. This is not him trying to get back in form. It's him having to rest because he had to make sure his neck was healed. It's a non-athletic type injury. Once he plays a couple games, gets back in the groove of things, gets his mind right, he's going to be fine. I mean, do you think he's going to be fine? Do you think he's going to come back? Do you think there even should be a goalie controversy?
No, there's no goalie controversy. I think we're in a very, very unique situation because the team is so good around Henrik Lundqvist, in addition to Lundqvist being so good. Now that when you see a guy like Talbot, and this is like no knock against either player because I think they're both great. And I think Talbot kind of lucked into a situation where it's like, I don't know if I mentioned this on the last podcast, but I think he compares very favorably to a guy like Mike Smith in Arizona. Size-wise, athletic ability, he can handle the puck. I just think it was the right combination of everything, and all of a sudden, Talbot emerged last year, and he supplanted Marty Biron as this team's backup, and now the moment that we probably needed a backup goalie the most in the last 8 years, we had one. And we didn't have one. We had a really good one. And when you look at Talbot's numbers, he's going to be a starter. He will be a starter. I said 2 years from now, he could be a starter in October.
He
may get traded. I think he's going to get traded
next,
in the draft.
Next year, he's making a shade over $1 million, and his value will never be high. Despite what happens in the playoffs, whatever, his value, because of the stretch that he's been on, is never going to be higher. I mean, his record, what does he have? Only, 3 or 4 losses? Not even?
Right. His save percentage is, I believe, .926. His goals against is like .211.
And I'll be honest. I mean, you made me eat my plate of crow. The first couple of games he played, they were giving up 4 or 5 goals a game, and he made them blow the game versus Nashville. And
well, that was more or less they were playing loosey-goosey defensively. They were not playing very tight defensively. You notice as soon as they started playing tighter,
whatever the case may be, I was on his case. I was on his case, and I was saying that this team needs Lundqvist back. All those people saying that Cam Talbot should be the starter. This is months ago now, or about a month ago, a little over a month ago, and I was saying stop. Through this stretch, he's been unbelievable. He's made saves, those kind of wow saves where you just your jaw drops open. We always saw Hank made. This kid's the real deal. This kid, playing at I call him this kid. He's probably
27.
Oh,
he's 27 years old.
Playing at Alabama Huntsville, which is not. I mean, he couldn't even get a scholarship to play in I went to BU. This kid wouldn't have been made the BU roster. Think about this. He could not play for the Boston University Terriers, but he's playing on the best team in the NHL. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
And he makes a transition. He does a phenomenal job. But Cam Talbot, Henrik Lundqvist is the starter. Period. Stop. That's it. Henrik Lundqvist is a starter going forward. I will play Talbot down the stretch, again, just to get him back into game shape. Make sure Lundqvist, talk about the most well-rested goalie going into the playoffs. Henrik Lundqvist by far. He doesn't even need the rest. But just to make sure that Talbot's in the swing of things, I have no problem playing him. Once the playoffs come, once the Rangers are the 1 seed, Talbot is not playing a single... But barring, maybe, injury or a 5-0, God forbid, or a 5-0 blowout and we're winning this game, pull Henrik, let him rest. We're up. This game's over. It's the third period. Then put him in. That's the only time I want to see Cam Talbot playing. Not because he doesn't deserve it. Not because that I think there's a controversy. Based on the fact that Henrik Lundqvist is your guy. He's the franchise guy. There's a reason why they paid him the money he did. He's going to be the Hall of Fame goaltender. Cam Talbot has had a great stretch. He did not win a playoff game yet. You trade him in the offseason, you get what you can for him. If Edmonton called and said, we'll give you Nail Yakupov or whoever for, you're going to tell me you're going to say no?
Give me Taylor Hall.
Right, Taylor Hall.
Hall.
Plenty of teams want him. Plenty of teams are going to want him. If we win the Cup with Henrik Lundqvist, he's 33 years old. That's what, 3, 4, year 5 maybe stretching it of great goaltending years from Lundqvist with a bunch of goalies waiting in the wings to come up and be the number 2 or star for him eventually. I would do it because you're going to have the ability to keep winning, over and over and over again. This, like you said, the window is not closed. That's what it comes back to: is that you trade him now because your window is not closing yet. That's you want to keep Talbot because Lundqvist is 39 and the Rangers have no young talent. Sure, every good player in the Rangers, the core of the team is all 25, 26 and younger. Again, Henrik Lundqvist is a starter from when he comes back. I'm guessing. If I was Alain Vigneault, I'd say Sunday. Let him start versus the Caps.
I believe Lundqvist is going to make the next start. He's going to be the backup tomorrow night for Talbot against Ottawa, and then he'll start the following
I would
game.
start him at home for his first game because then you're playing a Saturday, Sunday back-to-back, and then you have a game Tuesday. So I'm not sure. That's what I would pick. I'm not Alain Vigneault. I trust Alain Vigneault. He's been one of the best coaches of my lifetime if you look at his stats and what he's done. So we'll see. But again, I cannot reiterate this more. Henrik Lundqvist is a starter when he comes back. There was no goalie controversy. Thank God AV said this today. He did say it point blank. He said there's no goalie controversy, and he's right. And anyone who calls and says otherwise is stupid. And that's the end of it. I don't want to hear any more.
My last point on Talbot is hockey fans are, not to say that other sports fans are dumb, but we're very intuitive when it comes to stuff like this. And obviously they lost 4-2 last night.
Everyone's prisoner of the moment, too.
Right. Everybody, last night they lost to the defending champion Kings. And there were a couple of instances in that game where Talbot made some great saves. And on two separate instances, Talbot got a standing ovation from the Madison Square Garden crowd. And like I said, hockey fans, we get it. We know that, all right, like it was announced yesterday that Lundqvist skated in practice in the morning. So everybody knows, in the back of their mind, knows that, okay, the King is coming back. But at the same time, Talbot has been so good for us that, I mean, sure, they lost and he gave up 4 goals last night. But in those two instances, in that game last night, he got the standing ovation. And it would have been fine once, but they gave it to him twice. And that was really telling to me. That was our, as Ranger fans, that is our admiration and our thank you to say to you that this is like you, thank you for what you did. We were without our, unquestionably, our best player, and you came in, and you didn't just hold the fort. You continued to be, you continued playing at a level that Lundqvist would play.
Well said, and it sounds like I was picking on Talbot. I was not.
No, you weren't picking on Talbot.
I'm saying you have to get fair value for a guy.
In the back of our minds,
he's not the future.
Right. In the back of our minds, we also know he may get traded at the draft.
He's not the future, and he's been awesome. So why not?
Which is why I thought it was an awesome moment.
Exactly, you get the value from him when his value is as high as it is. He's 7th in the league in shutouts with 5. He's 7th in goals against with 2.19 goals against average. He's 4th in save percentage, almost a .930. He has 9.927. 19-8 record. I mean, that's a season for guys it would be a great season for a full-time starter. We also have this franchise goalie named Henrik Lundqvist, who's a future Hall of Famer. That's the reason why I'm saying move him. That's the reason why I'm saying go with Hank from this point forward, because it's his team. It's his team. That's it. He's the king. It's simple. There's no controversy.
Listen, I keep tweeting at the Edmonton Oilers. The Cam Talbot for Taylor Hall offer is on the table. Your move.
I'm with you on that. Maybe not for that player, but I'm with you on the general
your move
consensus of see what happens. It's going to be an interesting offseason, depending on what happens with the Rangers. If they win the Cup, I don't think we'll be seeing Cam Talbot in a Rangers uniform much longer than we have. But I think Rangers fans need to smarten up. That's the one problem with this cult following. Anyway, there are other sports. That was a long opening topic debate for something that's probably not the most pertaining to what's going on in the world right now, sports. There is a thing called March Madness, and I know Joe wanted to get into this, and me and Joe got at it a little bit on Twitter, like we do most days. Joe...
Uh-oh.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know a ton about college basketball. I don't sit here and watch it every day. I think the game is awful. I'm an NBA guy, and I rather watch the NBA than this college game where teams struggle to score 50 points. However, I have watched a lot of Duke and Kentucky games. One, because they're televised, and two, because as a Knicks fan, I want to see who hopefully will be in a Knicks uniform next year. But that being said, the Kentucky Wildcats, who was it you first said, or was it you tweeted something and I got on you, or I said that they were the best team, or I think you tweeted something.
No, I tweeted something.
Joe said that basically,
I definitely tweeted something.
Yeah, well,
everything I tweet is controversial.
I've never seen somebody who's so consistently wrong on stuff. But the Wildcats they're on right now on pace or trying to become a 40-0 team. One of the who's the last time the team to go undefeated? Was it the UCLA teams in the 70s?
It was the 1976 Indiana Hoosiers, coached by Bob Knight, won the national championship.
So I basically said that they're on pace to be one of the best teams of think about the Fab Five team, Michigan, and the UNLV teams, and you have some great UCLA teams and Indiana. There's there's a bunch of other teams that I'm missing, but I have no reason to believe they shouldn't win every single game. They have a guy who's going to go 1 or 2 in the draft with Karl Anthony Towns. They have the Harrison twins who stay there and have been great. They have Willie Cauley-Stein, who probably is going to go top 10. Just a loaded team full of guys who have stayed. There's not, there's only really one and done. They're well coached by a guy who's certain he could do it in any program, John Calipari. They're dominating teams. They have the blue and white squad. They're playing half the minutes a game because they could beat you with either side. I have no reason to believe they're going to lose a game. I think their start of the bracket is fairly easy. I picked them to beat Duke in the championship game, which I think would be an awesome game, or would probably be one of the highest rated games ever. I think the highest rated game ever was between Bird and Magic, and that's the test time for a while. Just because they're two big programs, and it'd be fun to see an Okafor versus Towns matchup. I love to see that. I don't know what your tweet was. I'm not going to go back and find it because you tweet 9,000 things a day. But do you remember roughly what you said?
Well, I don't have Kentucky winning the national championship, which was the first.
I'm just happy to pick them.
I didn't even
for my bracket, for our group's bracket.
No, it was that.
Go ahead, don't pick
We are in a. Obviously, everybody does brackets during March Madness, so we're in a bracket group with, except Darren Ravel. What is 8 or 9 of us who did it this year? So
yeah, roughly, yeah.
I would say 9 off the top of my head. 7 of us picked Kentucky. 1 of us picked Virginia, and the person
who went to Virginia.
So we'll eliminate that one. So out of 8 brackets, 7 picked Kentucky to win the national championship, and I was the only one who didn't pick Kentucky to win the national championship. And I have Arizona, the other Wildcats, winning the national championship.
I have Arizona in my Final Four. I like Arizona's team. They have what's his name, Rondé.
Hollis Jefferson.
Yeah, who actually came on our show, and he's been great. And Stanley Johnson.
Both.
Top 5, top 6 pick.
Yes, both will be.
They have talent, and
picks.
they're good. Imagine if Aaron Gordon stayed too; they would have an awesome team. But
they would have had an awesome team. They have a lot of size.
Yeah, no,
they have a lot of size.
I like Arizona. I have them in the Final Four.
Brandon Ashley, Carl Tarkowski.
And Sean Miller's their coach is going to.
And Sean Miller's their coach
soon too. I mean, they're a well coached team. They have a really good roster. They have a ton of NBA talent, just like Kentucky. That's not a crazy pick, but what I'm saying is, I think the argument what it got into was, it's one of those things where the team is, you pick them to lose, so when they do, you'll say, I was right, but if they win, you'll say, well, they were supposed to win because they were the best team. And I think, you could, look, the 1980 Russian team, that was the point I made. The 1980 Olympic team, the Russian team that lost the 18-year-old Americans, that team was the better team. They probably would have beat the Americans 9 times out of 10.
Right.
Kentucky could lose a game. Does not take away from them being one of the better teams ever.
No, they are one of the better teams ever. The logic that I had picking against Kentucky is, we watched a lot of college basketball since we've been born. We've seen really
non-committal growing. I've watched a lot of college basketball.
We've seen. Well, I mean, I'm always
March Madness. I watch. You talking about March Madness? I'll watch that. I'm not regularly. I'm not watching a lot. This year is more than ever, just because the Knicks are picking one, between 1 and 4.
I would say since we've been in middle school, the very first national championship game. Well, not middle school. This was way before. The first championship game that I remember really, really being into on TV was Duke and Arizona. It was back in 2001. And then when we were in middle school, it was Syracuse and Kansas. Syracuse and Kansas, but back when Boeheim's lone title, back when Carmelo Anthony came in as a freshman, dominated. From then, we've gotten a lot of really good title games over the years. We've gotten North Carolina, Illinois. We've gotten Duke and Butler. We've gotten Kentucky and Kansas recently.
And to go along with that, we've had a lot of good teams as well. I mean,
Kentucky
has had a great team. UCLA had a great team with Westbrook and Love and Aflalo and Collison.
Right. Memphis with Derrick Rose.
Memphis, yeah. CDR. We had Kansas as well. Kansas had a couple good teams. There's another one recently I'm forgetting. Anyway, basically what I'm saying is a lot of teams with a ton of NBA talent, and that you scratch your head thinking, how did they not win?
Right.
I'm not sure if there's the high-end NBA talent besides Towns on this Kentucky roster. My point is that they lost Alex Poitras as well, who could have been a lottery pick if he came out his freshman year. I'm saying between the coaching and them staying and them learning the system, they're like a machine, like a well-oiled machine. They're all like robots who just do their job, and I think because of that almost like intimidation factor of them being so well coached and like perfect at what they do. And you just see how they're athletic, but they can run the floor, but they lock you down defensively. They have shooters. They have, Towns as a monster. He's inside, outside. That is the reason why I think they're so good. I don't think they're not going to have. I'm not sure if Towns will be as good as Kevin Love or Russell Westbrook in the NBA. That being said, this team right now would beat that UCLA team, for example. So my point was, and I'll let you finish yours. I'm not saying the high-end talent is the best. I'm not saying that they're the same thing with the 1980 Olympics team. They didn't have, there was no real NHL. I don't think there was any NHL Hall of Famers on that roster. Just that the team itself was dominant and they were good, and that's what this Kentucky team is. There's no Anthony Davis like there was a couple years ago with Kid Gilchrist and the like. There's no John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, another really good Kentucky team. Think about that. Think about what Calipari has done. It's just insane. But this team, but maybe besides Towns, there's no, all NBA All-Star futures ahead of them. So my point was, there's a really good, one of the last few good college teams we'll ever see because they had kids stay. There's not many one and done besides Towns. So that was my point with it. But I believe you did say you thought the other rosters were better. You thought,
I definitely think so.
But in terms of
when I'm comparing this in particular, like this Kentucky team in particular, to other rosters, for example, like I thought 2003 in Syracuse was better. I thought that the Florida team that repeated, the one that finished as the top overall seed with Noah, with
Brewer,
Horford, with Corey Brewer, with Chris Humphries, that team was really good. I think that team was better.
Yeah, there was the Carolina teams with Sean May and Rashad McCants. Those are good college teams as well who won, but I never remember them being as dominant as this team. There was no blue and white squad, and there was no they have. Maybe someone tell me I'm stupid for I don't watch enough. I don't know, but I've seen a handful of games, 4 or 5 games, and just the way they just do everything right. And I've gotten to know the game of basketball pretty well. I know the college game is different than the pro game, but to see them they have there's no flaws. That's my point.
No, they're not a flawed team. I think this year in particular, it's one of the most unique one of the most unique years in college basketball in a long time. Where Kentucky is obviously truly a standout great team, but I think teams like Wisconsin and Arizona and Duke are maybe not even one notch below. Maybe they're half a notch below Kentucky's level. They are so really, really good. And I watched Kentucky. Kentucky was on a lot this year. They played Kansas. They played Texas. They played a lot of their SEC games. And I watched them over the course of the entire year. I think they're the best team. They deserve to be one. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like they haven't really been tested yet. And I've been watching the tournament, and I watched the way Cincinnati played them in the second round on Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
And Cincinnati, good team. They're not obviously they're a freaking 8 seed for a reason, but at the same time, they had some pretty good size, and they were able to come at Kentucky, and their players were obviously giving a cheap shot here and there. They were turning the game into a really gritty kind of game. And I watched Cincinnati do that and kind of get into Kentucky's head a little bit. Granted, Kentucky pulled away in the final 7-8 minutes like they usually do, and they ended up winning by double digits anyway because they're just that good. But I watched Cincinnati play, and I said to myself, wow, they essentially wrote the blueprint on how to beat Kentucky. You have to try to get them off their game, but obviously from a mental standpoint. And that is the one thing that I will say about Calipari. He creates these super teams, but at the end of the day, a lot of these teams seem to have that fatal flaw where mentally not that they're not up to the challenge, but you could easily get on them here and there. You watch when Memphis lost the national championship game to Kansas, they couldn't hit free throws, and they were up by 8 points in the final 2 minutes, and they choked away the game. You look at the Kentucky team with DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall. They lost in the regional final to a Bob Huggins coach team who Kentucky's playing West Virginia again this weekend in the Sweet 16. Not that I don't think we're going to see a repeat, but I'm just saying Huggins was definitely up to the challenge. You see Calipari 2011 in the Final Four went against went against UConn and Jim Calhoun in the Final Four with Kemba. So Calipari against these well-coached teams, there is a little bit of a chink in the armor there. So I think the combination of them not truly being tested against a team on their caliber yet, in addition to the way we've seen Calipari coach, I think it's a recipe where we may see Kentucky lose to. I have Arizona getting by Wisconsin in the West region. I think Arizona matches up really, really, really well with Kentucky, but I think Wisconsin, Arizona, and Duke in particular, those three teams, and I would even throw in a team like Michigan State, even though they're a 7 seed, they're incredibly well coached and they're getting hot late.
It's so scary.
Any of those teams would scare Kentucky in a game.
I would normally agree with you, and I totally agree with your points about the whole Wall Cousins team and how the other teams that passed the Davis team like that. They, they're different. They're a different team. They're a different breed. Well, I shouldn't say the Davis team because they did win, and I normally agree with that. Izzo's coaching really, really well at this point, and they're a lethal. I think Nate Silver posted an article the other day on 538 about how they were the best tournament team, recently, Michigan State that is. So I would normally agree with you, but I think that Kentucky is no longer that team that is scared by good coach. They're not going to lose to the Huggins team. I was listening actually to Shane Battier was on. Shane Battier is picking Cincinnati to beat Kentucky.
Cincinnati? You mean West Virginia?
West Virginia. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a couple years ago. Yeah, I think Bob Huggins. Right. He said because Bob Huggins knows how to defend them. Like he'll do like the 1-3-1. I would in other years I would say okay. But this team is just too deep and they're just too well coached here. Calipari knows that he's not gonna. This team is not like one of those. It's not going to be okay. I have Wall and Cousins. I'm going to say I have the two amazing players. They're just going to do their thing. I'm not going to care about anyone else. Towns, he's only been he's averaging only over 10 minutes a game. He's not the same. I don't think Towns will be a Boogie Cousins in the NBA. He's not some superstar talent. Any Knicks fans listening to me, they're going to think, what is this kid talking about? They don't want to hear this. But I think that he knows that he can't rely on these two superstar players, this one superstar player, and just drag them through. There's no more Anthony Davis there. So he's coaching the team as a whole much better. Whereas, yes, you're right. Guys like Izzo or Huggins will coach their teams as a team in a team way to beat them. They'll match up better defensively. They'll space them out. They'll do this and that. They'll run with them if they can. I don't think many teams can, though. So maybe Arizona, maybe Duke. So I think that this year is different because of that. Now, I do have 2 follow-up questions for you. But that's why I think for Shane Battier, who's a guy who's paid by ESPN to pick Kentucky to lose to West Virginia is absurd. They had they struggled versus Maryland. I don't know. Could Arizona give them a test? Could Wisconsin give them a test if they get there? Yeah. If they make the national championship game, could Duke give them a test? Yeah, sure. So my 2 follow-up questions to you, because you did say one thing that caught my attention, that they were not tested this year. So it's a 2-part. 1, are you saying that the SEC is too weak and they should move? And 2, if they play any of these teams, if they play Arizona, Wisconsin, Duke, Michigan State, whoever else you want to throw out there, West Virginia, in a series, 3, 5, 7 game series, who wins the series?
To answer your first question, when I say I don't think that they were tested, I mean I don't think they played.
They want it out of conference, the hardest schedule out of conference. That's what you want.
I don't. I mean, they scheduled Kansas, they scheduled Texas, they scheduled out of conference. Nobody could have.
You can't poop.
Nobody could have foreseen Texas falling off a cliff, and nobody could have foreseen Kansas being as bad as they were.
There's still 2 tournament teams
towards the end of the year, right? What I'm saying is, I truly, truly, in my heart, believe that I don't think they played a team that was close to their level at any point this season. And I'm curious to see what happens when they finally get to that game, because it will happen in this tournament. I'm curious to see what will happen when they finally play a team that's close to their level. Does there have to be a
team on their level, though? Do you even think there is a team on their what their level?
Oh, absolutely.
There's no team that's undefeated.
I think the 4 best teams going away were Kentucky, Arizona, Wisconsin, and Duke.
I'd agree, but they're in a different tier.
Right. And in the second tier, I would have thrown teams like Virginia, even though they got knocked out, and Notre Dame in that discussion, and Gonzaga.
I think Kentucky's in the universe by themselves. They're up top. They're their own tier. The next tier would be the other 1 and 2 seeds. You could throw in Virginia as well.
Well, I mean, I have Kentucky is at the top of the food chain until somebody knocks them down. But like I said, I had the other 3 teams not a level below. I had them half a notch.
Okay, so
below.
Duke plays Kentucky. They both make the championship. They play a 7-game series. Who wins the series?
Probably Kentucky.
What do you mean probably? Kentucky would win that. They could.
It would be. I would think it would be at least a 6-game series.
I don't think you're giving this Kentucky team too much credit, or you're giving Duke or Arizona way too much.
Oh yeah,
it's one of the two, and I can't figure it out. I mean, I don't. The thing that I'm just shocked by, and where I got in your case, is because I don't know what Kentucky did wrong They won close games. You want to say, well, they didn't beat LSU by 50. Okay, whatever. But I think
this isn't like football.
It's better to be battle tested.
Right.
They don't need style points. A win's a win.
Yeah, no. I think in basketball, more in particularly, like style points don't matter. I think it really matters in football because of the discrepancy between the top teams and the next level of teams. But in basketball, a win is a win because there are so many great coaches all around the country now. You got schools like Gonzaga and Wichita State who are drawing like these, like Mark Few and Greg Marshall. These guys are great coaches, and they're recruiting phenomenally. So in basketball, it's a little bit different. I don't care about Kentucky not beating the absolute crud out of every other team on their schedule. They beat everybody who they were supposed to beat, and that's great. And obviously, they're 4 wins away from being in a class of tier all by themselves with Indiana and the UCLAs of the world. Like I said, when it comes back down to is, I don't think teams like LSU or even a team like Arkansas lost on the first weekend. Teams like Ole Miss, I don't think those teams are necessarily good teams. I think they were on like the Cincinnati kind of level.
You can't blame them for playing in the SEC, though.
No, I'm not blaming them for playing in the SEC. Kentucky was far and away the best team in the SEC.
They did what they had to do. They would have been undefeated in any other conference. There's no team as well coached.
I don't think they would have been undefeated in the ACC.
There's no team as well coached.
I don't think they would have been undefeated in the ACC.
I do. There's no team as well coached.
Virginia, North Carolina, Duke,
Virginia scores 40 points a game.
Virginia, but they play defense. They play really good defense, and they keep games close.
But Kentucky's one of the best defensive teams. They had Towns and Willie Cauley-Stein in the middle. You're not going to. They're 7-foot guys in guards' bodies. And they're guards in 7-foot person bodies who they can guard anyone on the court. They can run anyone on the court. All the block shots and the whole team they're a machine.
You're comparing like the second tier teams in the SEC, like Arkansas.
I'm not
this
comparing
year.
at all. I'm saying you can't get on their case.
They would have.
They did what they had to do. They beat those teams.
No,
they
obviously
play in the SEC.
You beat who you play on your schedule. But I'm saying in the ACC. Duke, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Virginia, Louisville, even Syracuse. They would have been a tournament team.
It's a much
harder schedule. I think they would have lost once or twice. I think they would have lost once or twice.
It does not change that they're head and shoulders above the rest of these teams for a number of reasons. Their style of play, their coaching, experience, and how the players have translated to it, and just their talent level, their pro talent level, which they do have more than any other team. So to go back to your original tweets, what I got in your case was, you do think they're the best team in college basketball, you just don't think they're going to win.
Correct.
I don't know.
The argument, you're like, to be the man, you got to beat the man. You're the best until somebody, knocks you out. I mean, that's the logic I see here. I think Kentucky is they are well deserved to be the top team.
If you think they're the best team, how do you pick them to lose?
Because I just think it's one of those situations where not that they lucked into being undefeated, but just everything that has happened until now, it's been the right recipe to have.
But I don't get. If you watch so much Kentucky basketball, what did they do wrong to make you think
they didn't do anything wrong?
So then, how do you think a team that's not as good, like a Wisconsin or an Arizona, would beat them?
Because I think they both match up extremely well with Kentucky.
But if Kentucky's better top to bottom, then why would they lose that game?
Why did Wisconsin we could go why did Florida last year? They were the number 1 seed overall. Why did they lose to 7th seed UConn in the Final Four?
No. Because there's been 4 months every year, Joe. There's no team top to bottom like this team.
In the NCAA tournament,
there's no team coached by John Calipari and is good defensively and can run the floor and can shoot the ball and can score inside. There's no team like this.
In the NCAA tournament in particular, I think a lot of people get focused
Florida was undefeated at this point.
The better teams usually win, and that's not necessarily the case. I mean, recently we've seen teams like Louisville and Kentucky before last year. Those teams went into the tournament as the number 1 overall seeds, and they won. But it's much more rarer than people think. And I think a lot of people tend to forget that it's more or less about matchups than about being the better team at that particular time.
Were people calling in Mike Francis and saying, "Hey, could the Florida Gators beat the New York Knicks last year?" No, or whoever the worst team in the NBA was last year. They're not. This Kentucky debate's been a whole season-long thing with the 76ers, the Knicks, the Timberwolves. I hear it every day at work. The Kentucky Wildcats are just that good. There's far too team last year that you want to keep. They're just using them as an example, not to crap on them. But they were not the same level of team.
No, not even close to the
same
same level.
So then, what are you even bringing in the same sins? There was no.
But
team.
I'm saying
no
last year
team has been this close to a perfect season in a very long time. So I don't get there's no reason for me for seeing that. There's no reason to believe otherwise.
I think.
If you think of the best team, that you pick the best team to win. You don't go if the Miami Dolphins, whatever, the 76 Miami Dolphins, whatever year it was, 72 Dolphins, the undefeated Dolphins, you don't go and say, okay, they're undefeated at this point. Or you just use the Patriots instead. Even as a Giants fan going to that game, I was nervous as all hell because I didn't think they were going to win because their team was just that good. But I don't say to myself, the Patriots are the best team, but I'm going to pick the Giants. That doesn't make any sense. If you're betting right now, if I put a gun to your head right now, and I said I'm going to blow your brains out if Kentucky loses. Like if Kentucky loses this game, like I mean if they what's a better I don't know what's a better way to put it. All right, so I want to blow your brains out. I'm
you're going to blow my brains out.
Yeah, I want to blow. I wish I could. I want to blow your brains out if Kentucky does not win the national championship. Do you feel very confident about that?
With my life on the line.
You've seen them roll through these teams. I would feel pretty crappy if I were you. I'd feel like your brain's going to be splattered across the sidewalk because that's how good the team is. Now, as compared to if I said Wisconsin or Arizona or whoever, if I said, if they win that, like if I said the reverse, if I said if they don't win the national championship, I'm going to blow your brains. You're going to say, no way, I'm not taking that bet because they're not going to win. You don't trust them. It's almost like when Tiger Woods used to play golf versus the field. You'd feel more confident with Tiger Woods than the rest of the field. And I think Kentucky is a Tiger Woods. And yes, obviously the odds of 64 teams, whatever it is now, 68 teams, you feel more the whole field is a whole bunch of teams, and it could be a Cinderella story. It's a different year. It's a different era. It's the Kentucky Wildcats are Tiger Woods when in his prime. That's what they are. They're just a different breed of team. There's been no team like this. There's a huge problem, obviously, in the NBA with the talent level coming in, the age limit, and this and that. A lot of one and dones. But a lot of these players stayed, and they've been really well coached, which leads me to believe I'm not so sure that Calipari would want to go to the NBA. I can't believe we're talking this long about the NCAA tournament. I've talked longer than I've ever watched a game.
Well, we were talking about Kentucky and Calipari.
Yeah, well, because you get me fired up because of I just don't understand.
Can we deviate a little bit from Calipari because that'll lead us into the NBA.
Well, I will go right into the NBA. So we'll do some NBA talk right now quickly, and then we'll end with. I know we have a Twitter question by one of our great followers, and we have a something I wanted to get into with the team. A lot of New York sports going on right now, but. The NBA, obviously the players coming in soon, and we'll get to the playoff race. I know we have Dwight Howard coming back. Derrick Rose today said that he's feeling much better. Whatever, until he plays back to the level of 2011 Derrick Rose, and then I'll care. The one interesting thing, and I think it might be a little too early to talk about this. We'll wait and see. The Kevin Durant Jones fracture, and I know that no one really brought this up in our group. We text about what stories to cover this and that, and I'm the one that brought it up. I think Gene did write an article on Kevin Durant, but it's actually a pretty big scenario if you think about it because of the implications it could have. Besides the fact the injury itself does linger, and he had 2 surgeries on it already, and it does prohibit big men from being as effective as they once were. Look at Brook Lopez. Look at Bill Walton's career was derailed. Granted, he's not Durant. Does not play the same style as them. He's way less heavy. He plays more like a guard. He's more of a perimeter player than an inside player. So I don't think his game will be affected that much. The one thing that is crazy about it is, this is a team that did trade James Harden, and when I want to pay, they picked to pay Serge Ibaka over James Harden, and it's partially Clay Bennett's fault, and it's partially Sam Presti's fault for trading him for a sack of basketballs because he got nothing in return, basically besides the pick that became Steven Adams, who's a nice player. Russell Westbrook obviously is also rumored to be going maybe back to LA because he went to UCLA when he's a free agent, and Durant he's been linked to the Wizards, been linked to the Knicks. Brooklyn I think is somewhat in the discussion. It's something to bring up and to say, well, do you give Kevin Durant the max money if this Jones fracture thing lingers? Do you want to be known as the organization who traded James Harden, who is, I think, the MVP of the league? Do you want to be known as the organization who let Russell Westbrook walk and go to L.A.? and then also lose Kevin Durant, because that team, that trio, or do you want to add the fourth piece in Ibaka, who's still a good player, to not win one title? The closest they get is getting beaten in 5 games or
in the finals
by Miami.
Yep.
That's a pretty tough situation for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
I mean, I look at the way Harden plays now, and he's been playing like this for a majority of his tenure in Houston, but in this year in particular, he's turned it on to another level.
If you're going to go with this and say that Oklahoma City had no idea James Harden was this player, I want to say stop.
No. They knew he was going to be this player, but I think they grossly miscalculated a lot of factors in this. Especially, I think they should have taken Harden to restricted free agency as it was currently constructed. Because the only way obviously somebody was going to throw the max at Harden. And then in that case, you throw the max at Harden and you sign and trade him away, and then you get one last-ditch effort for a championship with Harden. If that's a situation where you have to trade him away, that would have worked best. Instead, Presti
traded him to the same conference, the same
conference,
like you a Western rival, and they want to pay the luxury tax. There's a couple million. They don't want to pay the luxury tax, but they thought Ibaka was the player to keep. Meanwhile, Ibaka went from a guy who was blocking shots and an inside presence to a guy who hangs around the perimeter.
Here is my biggest problem with the NBA, and it is so profitable. But at the same time, you have all of these owners, and this is Clay Bennett in particular, because he stole the Sonics away from Seattle. That's how bad he wanted a team.
He's a bad owner.
He's a terrible owner. He just wanted to own a team just for the sake of owning a team. But this is really like a huge NBA problem in general. You have all these owners who are so excited to come in and buy teams, blah, blah, blah. And, I mean, thankfully the salary cap is going to go skyrocketing up, so this may not be a problem anymore.
Oh, yeah. Thank you,
but all of these owners, they don't want to pay the luxury tax. Why?
Yeah, it's a great point.
It's a great point. Why would you not pay the luxury tax to keep James Harden, Ibaka, Durant, and Westbrook
Same thing
together?
happened with the Nets.
Think about it.
The Nets got rid of Paul Pierce, but want to pay Prokhorov. Prokhorov is billionaire. What are you doing with that money?
This isn't a point that's just reserved for Clay Bennett.
No, it's not.
Who owns the Chicago Bulls? Jerry Reinsdorf.
Yeah.
He owns the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah.
He's big-time owner. He doesn't pay the luxury tax either.
No, he's known for that.
And he's notoriously known for that. And it's because of that where they may lose Jimmy Butler in the offseason. The Chicago Bulls are basically on as we speak, which is why this came to my mind.
It's a great point. It's a great point. No, because you think about what these guys are buying these teams, and they're billionaires, most of them. Prokhorov makes a ton of money, one of the richest men in Russia, and you won't pay the luxury tax to keep Paul Pierce. You did it was basically a 2-year plan with Paul Pierce, and you got rid. He goes to Washington, and that's it. And now that whole that Garnett's gone too. That makes no sense. But I mean, not that everyone believed in the Nets going the distance anyway. But trading away, but not wanting to keep Harden and picking Ibaka when you could have kept both. That could have been a real dynasty.
That could have been a real dynasty. Really good.
You could have had
dynasty.
3 of the top 5 best players in the NBA,
right,
on the same roster with a very good fourth option.
Yes.
Not to mention,
Ibaka's not just a good fourth. He's a good 4 or 5.
He's the best 4 option in the league.
Yes.
And plus, don't forget, they didn't trade away Reggie Jackson until this trade deadline. You had Reggie Jackson as well. That roster could look totally different. And now they're a borderline playoff team. I think they'll get in. They're not going to do much damage without Durant. He needs time off because he didn't take enough time off to heal his Jones fracture, which is an injury that always comes back to bite you. And if you do not take the proper time off, Brook Lopez had multiple surgeries. Durant, I believe, had an issue with the blood flow. You just need time off. It's just there's a list of players. I believe you can go on InStreetClothes.com. It's a good website for injury-related news, and they have a good full list of the players who had this problem, where it is in the foot, the length it took, the surgery or not. It's all the information you need. Use that, and it just shows that right now they're in a state of flux where you don't know what they're going to do, because if they make the playoffs and lose in the first round, if they play the Warriors, they're going to lose. Russell Westbrook, as good as he's been, he's not going to stay in this team alone. If they lose, if Durant wants to go elsewhere, Russell Westbrook's not going to stay in OKC by himself.
Could we continue bashing Sam Presti? Because this is another thing. At the rate he's going, Durant's walking, and he's going to go to Washington, and he's going to get a lot of money because he's not going to want to stay in Oklahoma City. So this thing, it's going like a lot of people are like, okay, this is a down year. Durant will come back next year. No. Because Durant, after next year, is a free agent.
Right.
And
it's a contract. Next year's a contract year.
Next year is his contract year.
It's huge. It's one of the biggest offseasons in the NBA history. Yeah.
Right. In 2016 could be bigger than it was in 2000. And the salary cap skyrocketing.
That's it.
So many teams are going to have opportunities where it's like, in 2010, there were only 3 or 4 teams who could really spend money, and they were all like Miami, New York, like they were all like upper echelon kind of teams. Now with the salary cap going up, there are going to be so many like mid-level teams like Washington. Why wouldn't Washington want to go out and spend all the money in the world to land Kevin Durant, who is from the D.C. area, to come play home with John Wall?
Wall, Beal, it's a great score.
A great situation, and it's a lot like. If you're for Durant, would you rather stay in Oklahoma City and play with Russell Westbrook, who
maybe playing with Westbrook?
Yeah. I keep deviating from the point to point. But did you see the article on Grantland about the Oklahoma City media? I forgot who wrote it. His name is leaving me as we speak.
Who writes for Grantland?
He writes for Grantland. He wrote about the Oklahoma City media rift. And like the media's impact in the rift, in particular between Durant and Westbrook.
Oh well,
because they're best friends off the court in real life, and like Durant and Westbrook have knowingly taken each other's backs on multiple things, and they love playing with each other, and like they'll go to bat for each other.
I don't know about that. I'm not supposed to get into stuff. I'm not supposed to get into stuff that I hear, but I'm just going to say I'm not sure that they're best friends off the court, and I can tell you for a fact that Kevin Durant is not. He's a very sensitive guy.
Right.
So these things do bother him. He's attacked players before for getting on. In a way, it's a good thing to get attacked. If a reporter writes something about another player on the Thunder roster, and he tweeted at someone from ESPN about it. In a way, that's being a good team, but it shows you that you can get under his skin very easily.
Very, very easily. And why wouldn't he want to leave to go into a better situation?
No, and you're right. If a team, say they lose Westbrook or whatever, they lost. They already lost Harden, and Reggie Jackson's gone too. Although Reggie Jackson was a pain in the you-know-what being in that team. Having Deion Waiters, I don't think it makes it much easier. But there's really no incentive to stay. So the question is, do you move him? Do you get something in return?
Ooh, I like this question.
But if you do, what are you going to get? Because the last time he
now this turns into the situation where it's like they already traded Harden, and now we're going to trade Durant,
right.
And then all of a sudden Presti becomes this evil mastermind genius to the guy who traded.
Not a mastermind. He's not a mastermind. He's not very good at it.
He drafted Durant, Westbrook, and Harden 1, 2, 3 in consecutive drafts. So 7, 08, 09. So now all of a sudden he becomes the guy who drafted those 3 in Ibaka and put the super team together.
Hit on the picks
to the guy who traded James Harden for nothing. The guy who might end up trading Kevin Durant for nothing.
Right. And then
he'll lose his job.
And then Russell Westbrook will just say, "See you later. I'm going to walk to LA."
Right. And then he'll lose his job.
It's a pretty bad situation there, and it's something right now. It's a little far away to get into, but because the injuries, happened, and he's the playoffs are not too far away. It is something to think about, and it's pretty crazy because obviously us being Knicks fans, they're going to be involved. The Brooklyn Nets, I think, will be involved. Washington has a great case for him. Sure, can Oklahoma City say we have your bird rights? We're going to give you this amount of money. Stay with us. Sure, that could totally happen. And Russell Westbrook could say, "I want to stay here. I want to win with you." That could totally happen, but the fact that they handled this team this way and they gave up all their real chances. I mean, the James Harden trade will go down as one of the worst trades in NBA history because he's going to be an MVP candidate. I think 4 years to come. I think he should win it this year. It's in a way, if you're a Seattle SuperSonics fan or we're a Seattle SuperSonics fan, you've got to be pretty happy with see what's going down there. But I think they lost their window really to win. And it's just a sad situation. But again, as a Knicks fan, I'm not the most upset.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of people might disagree with this because Westbrook has played like he's on another level. Like he could probably carry them to maybe one round in a victory in the right series in the right matchup.
If Westbrook this year carries the first round, then he's an unbelievable player.
I'm firmly with you. I think their window is closed. I'm ready to go on. I think the Durant injury. And I
don't think back to the injury too. I don't think the injury is going to affect his career.
I don't think the injury is going to affect his career.
He'll take.
I just think the setback and the way everything played this year, it's almost like this was a lost year. And there's only so many years your window stays open in the NBA.
Right. You're right. Especially when you have a guy named LeBron James in the league, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, their second best player is 23 years old.
Right.
You're totally right.
And the Western Conference, Golden State.
Yeah, Golden State.
Houston.
The Spurs until all those guys are literally sitting at home watching the games, they're going to be in the conversation. No, you're totally right. Everything about that is.
I think their window closed, and I think a lot of this thing. maybe not necessarily in this offseason, but as 2015 progresses and then we're going into 2016 and then the summer comes up, I think a lot
things are going to get very
gonna...
hairy down in Oklahoma City. I totally agree with you with that. I will say this, and we could end this and move on. I'm not sure if you have any other NBA stuff you want to touch on, but I will end it with this. I think that there's a very... I don't know how to word this properly. Okay, if you told me to pick whether I think Durant and Westbrook will be wearing a Thunder jersey in 2 years, I'm going to say no.
I say both of them are gone.
I think so.
The only guy I think is still there is Ibaka.
Yeah, well,
and I think it's basically the situation where he signed a contract. He's forced to stay there, so they'll try to rebuild around him. But at that time, I could see Presti totally firing.
I'm not 100% sold on it, but I think definitely one will not be there. I think they're both not going to be there. I think Westbrook will go to maybe the Lakers or somebody else. They'll find a way to get him. And I think Durant has gone to. I think Durant has gone to Washington. I really think he's going to go. I think he sees a situation there where it's like Wall and Beal in the backcourt. I play small forward. They've got Gortat signed up to a nice little deal. Yep.
The cap is going to go up. Durant will slide in nicely and replace Paul Pierce, and then that'll be that.
Very, very feasible. With anything else in the NBA you want to touch on before we move over to our last?
The one thing I do want to touch on is because I love them so much.
Sure.
Closet Warriors fan, always been a big Dubs fan. I have throwback Rick Barry jersey at home. I have Steph Curry jersey.
Barry's awesome. Yeah.
They clinched the Pacific Division last night for the first time in 40 years. I think they're head and shoulders far away the best team in the NBA, and I think they're going to win the title.
I don't.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you right now, who do you think is the favorite is in the NBA?
Cleveland.
You think it's Cleveland?
LeBron James. Yeah, LeBron James could do whatever he wants on the court. Even they're going to win. I made a really bad bet saying Cleveland was not going to make the Eastern Conference Finals.
I think it's an interesting matchup because I think right now, when you look at it, there's the whole Kevin Love factor. Will he be able to?
It doesn't matter. Kevin Love is having a bad season. It does not matter. J.R. Smith's playing lights out, and you have Kyrie Irving, who is on his way to being another guy who I was not a huge fan of. Is awesome. LeBron right now, since he's sent out those 2 weeks, 11 games, he's been amazing. The Maziev trade worked out. Chumber's a great guy, lockdown guy in the perimeter. David Bly is not getting enough credit. He's doing a great job with them. He's learning how to handle them. Cleveland, there's no really. I don't think that the Warriors. They are the best defensive team. I'm not sure if there's a guy on that team who can cover LeBron one-on-one, like a Kawhi Leonard or like a Tony Allen.
What it comes down to is
maybe Jimmy Butler, but there's not many guys who could do that. I think that they're the only team in the East that can really do it. I don't think even if Rose, Butler's back now, if Rose comes back, even with Mirotic playing, insane, and Gasol having a great year, I don't think the Bulls are really in the conversation. The Western Conference, I think the Memphis Grizzlies are geared up for a deep playoff run. I think the Spurs, like I said before, until Tim Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker are sitting home watching the games, they will be in the conversation as long as Greg Popovich is coach too. And the Warriors, yes, the Warriors are their best defensive team. They're a great shooting team. They have these two young guns who are going to be leading this team. They're going to be in the conversation for the next decade. Like, we'd both know that. But I do not – maybe it's not their time yet. I just don't know. The big question mark is still their big men. If Bogut gets hurt, banged up, then you only have David Lee there. Spates is filled in nicely, but he's not really the inside presence that you're going to rely on. The Knicks were a jump 3-point shooting team a couple years back, and people said they're not going to last because the shots don't fall; they stink. I'm not sure if that's New York media bias. I think it might be. Not New York media bias, but the bias of the national media towards New York. But no one seems to say that about the Warriors. If the Warriors don't hit the shots, they're getting cold. They're not going to have the Cavaliers can score anywhere they want. Same thing as like the Spurs, and with the Grizzlies too. The Grizzlies have the two best inside guys. Gasol and Zach Randolph is the best feet on the ground low post player in the league, and it has been for I couldn't even say how long. Maybe since Shaq in his prime. Not that the Curry and Thompson will both will go cold, or one does, the other one won't. I'm just afraid if they don't have another way to really beat a team besides those two guys hitting shots.
They lack a third scorer. That's where
Iguodala's not that. Iguodala's not that.
That is where I think they're flawed.
Oh, sure.
I think that is their one flaw because they can match up really well. They have guys like Harrison Barnes and Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala. They can match up on the wing and on the block with a bunch of different, very creative ways. But at the end of the day, I like I said, I think they're I think they're the best team in the league, and I think they're definitely currently the title favorites. But I definitely think like they're missing like that sixth man type of like Manu Ginobili kind of guy, where like they need a third scorer. I don't know if they necessarily have it.
No, they don't. But I think would I be surprised if they make the Western Conference Finals? No. I'd be surprised if they make the NBA Finals. No, I will not. I still would put my money on the Cavaliers. I don't think LeBron James in his prime will ever lose a championship ever again, especially on the Cleveland team. I just don't. I think Kyrie's playing. No, but I'm being serious. But I think Kyrie's playing smart basketball the first time in his career. It's a very short career because he's barely played. He's been on a losing team, and now he has a guy LeBron, who's I don't know if it's against a shot against Melo, but you see how J.R. Smith acted with the Knicks, and now how he's playing in Cleveland. He's focused now. I mean, when J.R.'s on, J.R.'s a very good shooter, and he's a dynamic player, and he can score. Kyrie can get to the rim with the best of them. LeBron obviously can do everything he wants. Kevin Love is still having a pretty good statistical year for a guy people are getting his case on. He still can score, he can still rebound, he can still shoot. And he's not relied on. And I think he's an all-star. It's just a great roster. Mozgov being the rim protector. They just have too much right now. And I just think that they could smother teams. They could run with teams. I would be a little
afraid, who I also really, really like on Cleveland, who I think they may not be able to sign him next year, but I think is a really underrated player, is Tristan Thompson.
Oh, right.
I don't think Tristan Thompson gets enough credit. I think he is such a reliable, 10-7 kind of guy, and he plays good defense, too. He's maybe not necessarily can play 5 in a small ball lineup, but I just really think he's immensely underrated. I just want to throw that. I just want to throw that in there.
No. He was a high pick, and he's been great for them. He just gets overshadowed because of the bigger trades they made. Moving Deion Waiters too also helped them out a lot. I like the Cavs team a lot. Even we'll see what happens with Kevin Love.
Would really like to see the Warriors and the Cavs play in the finals. I think that would be a fun finals to watch.
So you're good with NBA?
We're good with NBA. I think we got some Twitter questions.
Yeah, well, the one thing I wanted to get to before we end this, with our Twitter questions was I opened the show, not mocking, but copying the Boomer and Carton intro, and I love them, listen to them every day. And for the most part, actually, which is surprising, I usually agree with Craigie and the Booms and what they talk about. And there was one thing that has been a story around here that I did not actually agree with, and that's the Mets opening day starter issue. I don't think the Yankees have named Tanaka the starter yet. I think assume he would be, but they're not for monetary reasons, which Sandy Alderson kind of alluded to today. They're not starting Harvey. He's not the opening day starter. Bartolo Colon is starting opening day, and the first home opener start will be Jacob DeGrom. So they're playing Washington. They're playing Washington first, and then I believe they're home. Are they home versus the Braves? I think it is. Anyway, sometime in April. But and obviously Carton was going on their case saying that Harvey's the guy. He's the real team leader. He's the fiery guy. He's coming back. You want him to start. You want to sell the tickets. Then they're just doing this to sell tickets for the game 2. Because obviously game 1 will sell out at home. But to me, he's going to get his starts. It does not matter. I don't care about the tickets. I don't care about, you have to realize they're a business. And I understand the Mets fans, Jake DeGrom is not a bad pitcher.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Who was your ace? Who was the Mets ace?
It's Harvey.
Who gets the ball on opening day? Who gets the ball in game 1 of the playoff series?
Should it be Harvey? Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. That's not my point.
The Mets are going to Mets.
I understand. What are you going to do? It's a typical Mets move, but I think the fact that this is a story is not really a big deal because who cares when Harvey pitches? It's not open because the whole what it comes down to is I have this thing where I feel like that I hate when fans think they're entitled. I hate the whole thing in the NBA where it's Popovich rests the starters and stuff, and when Kerr did it. In Denver, I think it was a couple weeks back, and they had to write the whole apology because, I'm a fan, I'm spending $200 for a ticket, whatever. My response is don't buy a ticket.
Correct.
Don't go to the game.
I agree.
If you want to go to Cold City Field in April and see, you want to go see Harvey pitch, but DeGrom is pitching, I don't care. It's your fault for buying it and expecting something. They don't have. They're a team. They're their own business. They don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. They don't. I don't care if Bocce Gloop Jones from Flushing wants to go to the game. And he doesn't see Harvey pitch. Why do I care? The fact that I understand what Carton's doing. I understand he's a Mets fan. I understand he wants to get on their case any way you could. Any Mets fan who's been dealing with the misery they've been put through obviously wants to no problem taking shots at that organization owned by the Wilpons. It's fine. The franchise has been a mess. I get that. But why does it matter if DeGrom starts in Harvey's game 2 at home? He's going to get his 30, 32, whatever it starts. He's going to be in the, if he stays healthy, he'll be in the Cy Young race. It doesn't matter. It really does not matter when he starts. I don't care at all. It does not matter to me. It should not matter to the fans. It's your fault for buying a ticket and expecting something. It's a team. Things could happen. Harvey can get injured, falling down the stairs tomorrow. Hopefully he doesn't. But things can happen. I don't get how this is a story. I don't get why this is getting blown out of proportion. I know you disagree with me. You said that he's a starter and he should be starting game 1 and get the ball.
Well, I agree in the sense that fans are not entitled. They're entitled to diddly squat.
Well,
we shouldn't expect anything.
It's been a recurring thing.
But at the same time, I think it's laughable that the Mets are getting really over analytical and thinking about how can we make money for game 2. Listen, the Mets have enough hype coming back into the season. Everybody knows the Mets are on the uptick. Everybody knows the Mets are going to be a better team than they were in 2014. So in that sense, I don't think you should worry about when and who starts where. You know what I mean? Start Harvey on opening day. The first home series, I don't know how long is it? Do they play? I don't know the schedule offhand. I don't have it in front of me. Do they play 3 games on the road and then 3 games at home, or is it
I think it's 4 than 3.
It's 4 than 3. Okay, so if you start with a 4-game road trip on the road, Harvey he'll be starting, back at Citi Field anyway. So I don't know. I'm very old-fashioned in the sense that I think your best pitcher gets the ball on opening day. I think your best pitcher gets the start in game 1 of a playoff series. From that perspective, I think you're overthinking it. Now, if you wanted to configure the rotation so that you don't start Harvey at all in the first 4-game series, and then you want to start him for your home opener, then sure, yeah, I could understand that. I'm okay with that. But to say Harvey's going to start game 2 of this series because of this reason, that's just stupidly overthinking it.
No, I'm with you, and I think the one issue that the fans have is that it's because it's for monetary reasons. They want to make more money because Harvey brings in so much money for them. They want to just expand that to another game. When it's obviously the attendance is down, opening day no matter what, no matter who starts, you could be either throwing the ball. Fans would come that just aren't see their team. Cause everyone has hope in late March, early April. That's the way it works. So I just think that because of it rubs fans the wrong way because it's purely for making money. I agree with you that their best pitcher is Matt Harvey. Matt Harvey deserves the ball. I like Matt Harvey's attitude and how he wants to win every game. I like how he dominates spring training. I think he's awesome. I wish he was a Yankee. Hopefully, he will be a Yankee.
He will be a Yankee in time.
But he's a free agent in 5 years. He's a free agent in 5 years.
He'll be a Yankee in time. Don't worry.
I hope he stays healthy. I think he's good for the Mets, and he's good for the sports scene in New York. He's a great attitude. People don't like
we saw it a couple years ago when the All-Star game was at Citi Field. Who got the ball?
Right.
Harvey.
He's
and there was
an
a lot
awesome
of
guy.
excitement. He really is. He's very real. He's very real.
Yeah, he is. Very real.
I think he's very real, and he's very real. Like we grew up watching and idolizing Derek Jeter, and Derek Jeter
he wants to be Jeter, but he's not the same kind of guy.
No, he's not the same. And this is what I was getting to. They're very two different personalities. But Jeter came from he was real, but he was real in more of the laid back, wanting to stay out of the spotlight kind of sense. And Harvey is real, but he's more of the no nonsense. I'll tell it like it is. I embrace the spotlight. I'm going to be there.
Right.
And it's very interesting, and I think it's nice.
Yeah. To get to our last baseball topic, we have a Twitter question, and we'll end the show. I know Joe has to get home to eat his grandma's cooking.
Yes.
She's
making big ziti tonight.
Good friend of the show and the blog, our friend Chris, Greek Chris from Sound Tech, and his best Francesa impersonation said, "Are you worried about Betances this spring? Last year, a .75 ERA in the spring. This year, a 6.85. He'll hang up and listen." I'll go to you first.
Are you worried? Are you worried about Betances? Okay. Listen, it's spring training. Get lost. Go shovel snow. Let me go to my snowblower. To seriously answer the question, I'm not worried about Betances at all. He's going to close. He's going to get at least 30 saves. He'll probably have somewhere between 40 and 50 saves when it's all said and done. I like Betances. I like his attitude. I like when he's on the mound, he has that Harvey look, like it's I'm going to mow you down, and there's nothing you can do about it. I was an advocate for Betances last year to be the closer this year, and I got my wish. So I made my bed. I think I'll sleep very pleasantly in it. I don't think spring training ERAs or anything pitcher related to spring training, I don't think is a really big deal unless you obviously get hurt like Zach Wheeler did. I think spring training is more or less for hitters to kind of start to get into the groove, and just for pitchers to get back into the swing of things. Once you're firmly entrenched as the type of pitcher you are, I think it's very hard to get out of that. So I think Betances showed what he could be last year, and I think he's going to improve upon that. So I'm not worried.
Yeah, you stole my answer. I couldn't say it any better. No, it's okay. No, it's okay. I mean, I'm glad we're having the same point. I mean, we're going to give all hope to Yankees fans. I don't think that again with the pitchers, what they do in spring training is more about finding their groove, hitting their spots, just trying to work on stuff. CeCe got shellacked the other day, and he said, I'm just trying to work out some things. I was not really. They basically don't care what the outcome is, because they're not pitching the same way they would be in a game. They're just doing whatever the heck they want just to feel out some stuff. I'm sure Betances is doing the same thing. It's just a different mindset. And when you're closing a game, you're focused, you're in the zone, and that's the thing you said too. I think Betances has a great closer attitude. He wants to come there and just throw the ball as hard as he can. He's a huge guy, wants to scare you, and he's going to do a great job of that. I mean, the Yankees have a great bullpen. That's their one strength this year. Closers in this league are, not really that important anymore, unless you have a Mariano Rivera, they constantly change. But I think we have a guy who will stick around for a while, and he's going to be someone you trust in the back end. We've been lucky post-Mariano to have Robertson, now Dellin Betances, so I'm totally fine with that. Now, if it leaks into the regular season and there's a stretch where he's blowing saves, maybe something's wrong. I don't think it's an injury-related thing. I think it just goes back to him working on stuff and not. They might not take these games as seriously as they should. I think they just use it just to throw in, a real, game, even though it's exhibition, and just to feel things out. So I am not worried yet about Dellin Betances.
All right.
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty long podcast. I think we did a good job today.
I think we did a great job, especially with the new equipment.
New equipment's great. We'll have the calling in thing worked out, hopefully, if I talk to our tech guy. Joe... Oh, what were we talking to? Is that me?
No, I wasn't talking to you.
I'm reading text. Anyway, getting distracted here. Joe has to get home and eat his dinner.
My big ZD.
I need to watch the Knicks lose to my dad's at the game. I did not get to go. I got to work tomorrow early, so we can wrap things up now. But it was a great podcast. It's good to be back. I'm really excited to use this new equipment we have.
Remember to follow us, DNS_podcast on Twitter. Visit our website, dishingandswishingpodcast.wordpress, which will be eliminated.com.
Yep, we're going to try to move to iTunes soon. We have a big group now. This tech stuff is just hard for us. We're supposed to be smart kids, obviously not that great with this, but we're going to try, and we'll improve stuff and make it easier and more accessible for all you guys. Thanks again for the support. Thanks again to Brian and Jada and her family for helping us get this audio mixer, and everyone. Thanks for
our friends for writing for us.
Yeah, thanks for tweeting in. Thanks for
we're finally taking off.
Yeah, thanks for everyone for sharing our stuff and retweeting it. Just word of mouth. You got to keep just retweeting us and just spreading the word on social media. That's how we're doing it. But we any topics you guys want us to cover, we're going to keep doing that. And again, just tweet at us and keep us in your thoughts, and say, hey, I want Ed and Joe to talk about this and that, and we'll do it. So again, thanks for all the support. And
I'm Joe, and that's Eddie.
That's Eddie.
Until next week.
Until next week. See you guys.